Hey YouTube, iPhone Ty here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to easily and safely remove and repair a broken LCD. Now if you look here, you'll probably recognize this iPhone if you followed me on YouTube from my rocket launch video. Well, now it's time to change the screen and put a new one on. So the first thing that I want to show you, you want to make sure that right here on the edge that you're not messing it up. So there's a certain way that you want to go ahead and do this. Now you need a few different tools. The first tool that you're going to need is a pentalobe screwdriver. You're also going to need a Phillips screwdriver. You'll need a plastic ease apart tool. You'll need a suction cup. And you'll need shipping tape. Okay, now the shipping tape, you want to make sure that it has a glossy surface. Now the first thing that you want to do is take your shipping tape, line it up with the bottom of the iPhone, and then you're going to securely fit it to the phone. As you work your way up, make sure that you work all the bubbles out. You want that to fit as tightly and securely as possible. Okay, now that your shipping tape is secure, you're going to want to remove the two pentalobe screws from the bottom of the iPhone. They're located here and here. Now you want to make sure that when you remove these, that you use a pentalobe screwdriver that fits the screws. If you try and remove it with a different screwdriver, you'll probably strip them out and cause a bigger issue for yourself. Once those are out, you're going to take your suction cup and place it over the home button on top of the tape and secure it. Once it is secure, go ahead and pull out, and you'll notice that the screen gaps from the body of the iPhone. You're going to take your ease apart tool, place it between that gap, and work your way around the outside of the iPhone. Once you've made your way all the way around, the screen will come off. Make sure that you work all the way around. When it releases, be careful of the ribbon cables up at the top that are still connected to the logic board. Now you'll see that there are 3 screws holding on a pressure plate over those ribbon cables. You want to remove all 3 of those screws with your Phillips screwdriver. Once those are all removed, take your ease apart tool and carefully remove the pressure plate. Now be careful because you can rip those ribbon cables very easily. So as you pull this out, make sure that you stay aware of that. Now you've got 3 clips holding down those ribbon cables to the logic board. You're going to want to remove all 3 of those. You need to be very careful to make sure that you don't damage the logic board. So use soft tools. You can use your fingernail if you want to. Just don't use anything metal to try and pull those up. And take your time. Alright, now your LCD screen has been successfully removed from the body of the iPhone. Now we need to remove the 2 screws that hold in the pressure plate that holds in the ear speaker. So go ahead and remove them. Now keep in mind that these screws are different sizes and you need to keep track of where they go. Alright, now that you've removed both screws, go ahead and remove the pressure plate. And now that you've removed the pressure plate, go ahead and remove the ear speaker. Now we want to go ahead and remove the ribbon cable that attaches the front-facing speaker, or excuse me, the front-facing microphone, the front-facing camera, and the proximity sensor. Now keep in mind that here on the right side it is held on by adhesive. Don't pull on it. You want to make sure to get up underneath there and ease it off very carefully so that you don't rip that ribbon cable. If you rip this part, your ear speaker will no longer work. Now that you've got that off safely, we are going to go ahead and remove the home button assembly. There are two screws holding it together right here. You want to go ahead and remove both of those screws. Again, being mindful of where each of these screws belongs. Now that they're both out, you want to go ahead and start from the left side, pull upwards. There is a ribbon cable attaching the connector to the screen. That is attached by adhesive. Again, don't pull on that or your home button will no longer work. You want to make sure to get up underneath it nice and easy. Again, take your time. Don't rush this. Patience is definitely a virtue and will save your iPhone. If you have a large pair of tweezers like I do, this definitely helps. Okay. And you have safely removed the assembly. Alright, now the next thing that we want to get off is the back plate for the LCD. There's several screws all the way around, also at the top and the bottom, holding it in. So you want to make sure that you remove all of the screws. Don't forget the one at the top and the bottom. Once all the screws have been removed, you can go ahead and pull the back plate off. Now your iPhone 5 LCD is fully disassembled and it's time to put it back together with the new LCD. Okay, so we've got our new LCD here. We're going to put it back together the same way that we took it apart. And we'll start with putting the back plate back on. Make sure that you line it up correctly. Be very gentle with the LCD, it is fragile. Once everything is lined up and in place, go ahead and put all your screws back in. Okay, and once all the screws are back in for the back plate, we're going to go ahead and put back together the home button assembly. Now keep in mind that if your new screen doesn't come with a home button cover, you will need to transfer over the home button cover from one to the other. So we're going to go ahead and start by putting back the home button assembly. We're going to line it up first with the holes. And then once it's in place, we'll go ahead and put pressure on those connectors so that they'll re-adhere. Now we go ahead and put back in the screws. Now that the screws are back in, we need to put back in the ribbon cable for the front-facing camera, the front-facing microphone, and the proximity sensor. Now you'll notice that the microphone fits nicely into a little hole. Make sure that you get that in properly. Put the front-facing camera in And then once everything's all lined up and in place, then go ahead and put pressure on the connector so that it readheres. And it should look like this. Next, we're going to go ahead and put on the ear speaker. You'll notice that there's two prongs that touch together at the connector up there at the top. Make sure that it goes on properly so that those connectors touch against the prongs. Then you're going to take your pressure plate place the pressure plate back into its place, lining up the holes for the screws, and then go ahead and replace the screws. The longer screw goes in the top and the shorter one goes in the bottom. Okay, now your screen has been fully reassembled. I go ahead and take a lintless cloth and clean off all the fingerprints just to cover up any tampering evidence. You want to make it look like it's never been touched before. And then we have to reassemble the screen back to the body of the iPhone. The first thing that you're going to do is reattach the ribbon cables in the order that they came off. Make sure that you're patient with this. This can take a little bit of time, and make sure that they line up right. Once it's all back in place, then we'll go ahead and put the pressure plate over. Now keep in mind that the pressure plate it needs to go on properly. It has kind of a little lip on the side. You don't want to tear that ribbon cable, but just make sure that it goes back in properly and sits flat and all those holes line up for the screws to go back in. Once it's all lined up, you're going to go ahead and replace the screws. Once all the screws have been replaced, I go ahead and take that cloth and clean out any fingerprints or grime. Make sure that you get out any additional glass. If your LCD fell apart, make sure that everything's out from inside of there. And then you can go ahead and put it back together. Make sure that you're careful. Put back in your two pentalobe screws. And once both those screws are back in, you're done. Thanks, guys.